eclectic.
All right, Shalom, man. Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor be to the Most High God of Abraham, the Most High God of Isaac, and the Most High God of Jacob. All right. Through his only begotten Son, who serves as an instrument of salvation for the nation. And we know that man to be named in the worldly tongue Jesus, right? But in the Hebrew, some may call him Yahweh Shai, some may call him Yeshua HaMashiach, right? A lot of people call him Christ, right? But he is our brother, and he is the son of the Father, right? So we at it again on live, man. Today's topic is just hidden intelligence, right? Most High Mondays, nothing too deep today, nothing too heavy. Just really, going over a lot of basic things. So I wanted to play this interview that I seen from the brother Ice Cube, who will be a guest feature on our video today, on our class. So before we do that, of course, we're gonna play the blowing of the shofar. I also want to say fair use, because we will be playing an interview. In the interview, the information that we bring out in the interview is only used for edification. You don't own the rights to the content. You just want to use what's brought forth, what was put on this internet, what was put on the media to further edify and exhort our people, right? So before we do that, let's get this playing of the blowing of the shofar. Blowing of the shofar. There we go. All right, ready. Con. So that was the blowing of the shofar, man. Again, today's Most High Monday, man. Hidden intelligence, right? So we got a guest feature. We featuring a brother Ice Cube, right? And we're gonna watch a little bit of his interview that he put out on CNBC in the 1990s. But again, fair use, fair use. I'm not gonna stop this video every 5 seconds just so that way YouTube doesn't take down my video for copyright. We're not streaming this whole video. We're just trying to play to listen, and then we're going to edify. Play to listen, then edify. So fair use. Let's play it. Let me know if y'all can hear.
The side so it looks like he's singing into that leopard interior. This brother think
Ice Cube. I'm Barbara Nevins, your host on Talk Live, and I'm talking with Ice Cube now. We had a caller from Georgia Inglis, and he said to you, what would happen if all your lyrics came true, everything you wrote came true?
Well, most of everything I do write has come true and is true today and is happening right now.
Inglis, is that what you meant?
No, I was like, I'm saying on the thing about the Jews, the situation, I understand everything that he coming from with the ghetto and all that, because I was raised in the ghetto. I was raised by a single parent, my mother, and I'm doing all right now. I'm in college. And most people at age, I'm 19 now, and they say black men only live to be 18. And if you're doing good to live over 18, then that's an accomplishment in life right now at this day and age in 91. I'm trying to say things on his album, like Shoot the Jew and all that. I understand where he's coming from, but it's like some people might go out and just do that. How would he feel if that came true?
Cube.
So the question that's being asked, right, is what about the things that you say in your lyrics? What if they came to pass, right? Now, going to the Bible, right? We're not going to waste no time going there, because everything that a lot of people talk about in rap music has come to pass, right? Let me go to the book of Isaiah. I was going to go to Deuteronomy, but let me go to Isaiah. Let me go to Isaiah 51.
When did Ice Cube move to Atlanta? Because I always thought he was based out of Cali.
I don't know. I don't know if he lived in Atlanta. I'm not sure when he did move.
He might have just been in Atlanta, bro.
Yeah, he probably was just there. God, he probably was just there. But let's read this. Let's start. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 51. let's start at verse number. Matter of fact, no, scratch that. Scratch that. I'm sorry. Let's go to Deuteronomy. I want to set the stage before I go here. Deuteronomy 28, right? So we're going to take it back to camp. We're going to take it elementary and take it back to camp. So we starting at Deuteronomy 28 and 1, and then we're going to read verse 1. We're going to jump down to 15, and then we're going to jump down and read some more verses, right? But let's start here at Deuteronomy 28 and 1. Who's ever at the top? Obadiah. Matter of fact, we can do bottom to top. So we can start with Brother Denal. Brother Denal, then Brother Azrael, then Brother Obadiah. That's how we do it.
Con. It's Deuteronomy chapter 28, and it says, "And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth."
Right. So Deuteronomy 28 and 1 says, if we obey God's commandments, he's going to set us on high, right? Above all the nations of the earth. But is an important word in this passage. Why? Let's read verse 15.
Verse 15, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee."
Right. So when we're talking about being blessed and cursed, we can literally read that in the scriptures that the Lord made a covenant with the children of Israel and told them, if you obey my covenant, you'll live. But if you break my covenant, you'll die, pretty much, right? Because these curses are going to come upon you and overtake you. And you know, when you're overtaken by something, you're given over to it, right? So let's jump down to verse number 46 real quick. Let's read this. Verse number 46.
Verse number 46, "And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever."
The they is the curses, right? The they is the curses. So when it says, "and they shall be upon you," it's saying these curses shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder and upon your seed forever, right? Now let's read some of these curses, right? That was put on the children of Israel. We can find them in Deuteronomy, right? We can find more even outside of the book of Deuteronomy. But let's read one. I think this is one of the more heavy curses that we experience, because we could see it happening in everyday life. In so much, we can see it being rapped about in music of old and in current times. Let's read this in Deuteronomy 28 and 54.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 54, it says, "So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave."
Right. So we can see right there that one of the curses that's going to be upon us forever, from the time that the Most High scattered us for breaking his laws, was that we were going to have our eye evil toward one another. So the brothers on the screen, right, have done a great job of reversing these curses. But there's also 4 other brothers in the world that may not get along like brothers on the screen, that may beef, that may have quarrels, that may want to do wicked and abominable things to one another. That's literally being prophesied right here in Deuteronomy 28 and 54. The reason we know it's true, the reason we know it come to pass, because 2 things. One, the Lord prophesied in Isaiah 55 that his word would not return unto him void. And number 2, we can see it happening in all the earth, right? Let me just pull up Google real quick. You know, I'm gonna use Google. What? Let me ask the right question, because I want to be honest. I don't want to have to lie to pitch the narrative, because it's not a narrative, it's the truth, right? Let me see. What ethnicity and violence against itself? Let me say, I'm just asking a general question, right? So let's share this tab. Let me share this tab real quick. Now, for all my scholars and all the, the very, I guess you could say, analytical people, I'm asking a general question, right? We know that you could say, well, white people have committed. I understand that, right? I'm just doing this for the sake of the lesson and for the sake of the information that's brought forth by the search engines that is used in society today to answer questions, right? So, yeah, when you, based on the data, like it reads on the screen, based on the data regarding violent crime in the United States, African Americans disproportionately experience the highest rates of homicide and gun violence, with the vast majority of these offenses being intraracial, right? Intraracial means occurring within the same race. So we can see that Black people are more likely to be killed by Black people in America, or African Americans, right? We're just going to use that as a term. That's why this verse, when we put it back up, is so manifest even in today's time, right? Like it mentions in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, the thing that which had been is that which shall be, and that which hath been done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. That's Ecclesiastes 1:9, right? So we can see even from 1990s when Ice Cube is being interviewed on CNBC, and he's being asked a question about his lyrics, and what if his lyrics became manifest? You'll see his answer is going to be along the lines of what we're already saying. This stuff has already been manifest. A lot of the lyrics they rap about are biblical. And I'm not telling you, this is not a disclaimer. It's not us saying, go listen to rap music. Go put on the Ice Cube, listen to a lot of the foolishness, because you'll also see in his answer that he's about to answer to the brother that asked the question, he's literally going to say something that makes you go, that's a good point, right? But I'm just showing this again. Let me go back to what I pulled up on Google, that in United States, African Americans disproportionately experience the highest rates of homicide and gun violence, with the vast majority of these offenses being intraracial, right? Occurring within the same race. So Deuteronomy 28:54 manifest. And there's other precepts that we're going to go to, but that's to lead us off. Now, let's go back to the interview and let's play. Remember, the question was, what if somebody acted out the lyrics that you rap, right? What if they came to pass? What if somebody did exactly what you say they'll do? What if somebody takes them literally and acts on them, right? That's the question.
If somebody shot a Jewish person for my record?
No,
if
somebody took you literally, took those words and didn't see them as poetry or an expression of general anger and said, I'm going to go shoot the Jew.
Taking rap music literally for everything that's said is like taking TV literally. You have TV programs and you have the news. With rap music, you have the same thing. Of course, the TV programs are in most parts fiction and the news is real. And with my record, you have both. You have the news and you have the fictional things that happen, and that's a part of life in a lot of cases.
So it'd be pretty dumb to do everything that your lyrics advocate.
Of course.
Okay. Next caller.
So he pretty much said, you'll be dumb if you went and did everything that in the music I said, right? And that's true. Some things you hear in rap could be real, but a lot of that stuff may not have actually happened, right? Could just be a fabrication to make the song a little bit more interesting, right? But nonetheless, the answer that he gave made you kind of go, because it's the same thing like he told the lady. Anybody would be a fool to take everything you see and hear on the news literally, and everything you see in movies and hear about in movies literally, right? No difference across entertainment industries, right? Same thing with all walks of life. There's this saying called, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see, right? Believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. So that just goes to show you that a lot of times when I guess you could say these labels are put on these rappers. Well, I can't speak for today's time. Let me just speak for back then. Back then, rappers were a lot more educated and in tune with society than I think that we are in today's time, which is why you can have somebody like Ice Cube get on national television, taking callers and questions live in the hot seat and giving answers that are actually educated, which is why I called this lesson Hidden Intelligence, right? Hidden Intelligence. Because again, a lot of what he raps about goes back to the Bible, Deuteronomy 28:54, right? But we'll get into that. we'll get into more of that. Let's go. Let's keep watching this interview.
Janet from California. Janet?
Hello, Ice Cube.
How you doing?
I'm fine. I want to know, do you get along with NWA in any kind of way at all?
Well, I've talked to a couple of guys in NWA. Proud of you. Thank you.
Okay. Next caller, Eric from Georgia. Eric?
Hi. How do you feel about the beer company that pulled the commercial you went for anti-Jew lyrics?
Well,
anti-Semitic lyrics would be a nicer way of putting it.
Well, the lyrics aren't really anti-Semitic, and I can't understand. You know, I listen to people like the Simon Wiesenthal and Rabbi Cooper, and am I getting this wrong? Are they saying that they condone what Jerry Heller or some of these other people have done to me? Do they say that it's all right for Jewish managers to get young black kids with talent off the street without without lawyers and without people that was helping me in my benefit to make records? That's what I'm getting out of this, and I really would like to speak to Rabbi Cooper about that, you know, because maybe, you know, if they're getting mixed messages on that side of the table, I'm kind of getting mixed messages on this side of the table too.
We're talking about this.
So pretty much the question was asked about, you know, his message overall, or how did he feel about his lyrics in terms of, you know, how it, I guess you could say, affects the Jewish community. Now, I don't know exactly what lyrics were used in some commercial from what song, but if you know anything, you know that a lot of Ice Cube's experience stemmed from him leaving a group called NWA, which stood for Niggas with Attitudes. And the reason being, if you watch the movie, which he elaborates, Ice Cube himself elaborates on in a lot of different interviews about the actual authenticity of the movie, the accuracy of the movie. It pretty much, him leaving that group stemmed from his relationship with the group's manager, which was Jerry Heller, and he was a Jewish man. And a lot of his music after he left the group wasn't necessarily just centered around him hating Jews. It was actually centered around him disliking Jerry Heller. But like we say, media does this thing where they take what you say and they flip it, because what sells is death, destruction, sex, right? What doesn't sell is the actual idea or the actual truth of what somebody is saying. You have to kind of make it like propaganda in order for it to be, you know, in order for it to get views. So that was him being asked that question. The reason we're talking about that real quick, let's go to the book of, well, we already here, right here. Right, let's share this real quick. We already right here. Psalms chapter 83. Psalms 83. Let's start at verse number 1 and let's read through verse 5.
Psalms 83, starting at verse 1 through 5. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
Right. So the nations, what they do is they devise plans against the people of God. Like Ice Cube said in his answer, he doesn't think it's fair that he gets, I guess you could say, ridiculed for his I guess you could say, feelings and emotions towards Jerry Heller, and how the media turns it and spins it as in Jewish hate overall. Because he could say, well, I think the lines are blurred, because as well as they're confused, I'm confused on my end, because what it seems like is all y'all want to do is take young black men who can make you some money off the streets and do bad business with them, sign them into these bad deals, and pretty much it signed their life away. You know, can't really make money from what they do. And that was Ice Cube's situation with NWA, how he was really much, Jerry Heller was trying to force him to sign this contract that he didn't want any lawyers or any other body to read over, you know, pretty much like a bad deal, negotiating in bad faith. And that's what it may seem like in the industry. So the reason we read this is because we can see that that could be a real thing that's happening. Like, people could be saying, we're not going to get them to really, you know, understand the language of this contract. We just want them to sign so we can get them to put out this music, and it makes us all the money, right? And that's what's happening. And you can see that, and like we read in Psalms 83, taking crafty counsel against thy hidden ones with one consent. Everybody kind of benefits from so-called blacks and Hispanics' demise, right? Everybody does. Let me read this in verse. Are we already in this chapter? Nope. Let's go to the next chapter. First Maccabees. Let's read First Maccabees. Let's start at verse number. This First Maccabees chapter 2. Let's start at verse number 6, and let's read through verse number 11.
Verse 6.
We in First Maccabees 2. First Maccabees chapter 2, starting at verse 6.
First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 6. It says, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah, in Jerusalem, he said, woe is me, wherefore was I born to see the misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Her temple has become a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation had not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? Keep going.
To verse 11.
Okay. All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she has become a bond slave.
Right. So you can see, point being in here in verse 10, what nation had not had part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils, man? Israel became like a hoe, you know, became like a harlot. Everybody reaching up under her dress, seeing her goodies. My goodies, my goodies, my goodies. Like, what's her name? Sierra put out. Every nation seeing that, you know? So when we say these things and then you see Ice Cube give answer kind of the same way he give answer, you can see how these nations kind of like make it to where you kind of benefit off the death, destruction, the rape, robbery, and murder of a certain people group, right? Because again, some of the most shows that people likes the most involves the rape, robbery, murder, you know what I'm saying? Really just the demise of a certain people group. Power, all powers, whether it be Ghost, Force, Raising Canaan, you know what I'm saying? Whether it be
So Leon.
Yeah, I don't know the name of that show. What's that show called?
Snowfall.
Snowfall. You right. Snowfall. Whether it be
Top Boy in the UK. Top Boy.
Yeah, there's a lot of different shows that really glorify that. Even movies. Now, Boys in the Hood wasn't necessarily a movie that glorified the rape, robbery, the destruction of niggas, right? And I'm using that as its captive term, niggas, right? But it was a movie to highlight it. But it was a great movie because a lot of people, there's a lot of people like us who probably feel for those brothers and those sisters, right, in those conditions. There's a lot of people who were actually entertained by it, right? And kind of wanted to see that again. So then you go make parody movies. You know what I'm saying? You get people to make parody movies like Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. You know, that was a Marlon Wayans parody movie. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. It was comedy. It was meant to make people laugh. But again, I'm not blaming necessarily Marlon Wayans per se, because my people do not know, they do not consider. Lord have mercy on those that don't know. But what I'm saying is that the people who help fund those movies, the people who are in positions of powers to allow those movies to be aired over the network and the streams and all that stuff, they know the truth. And they find entertainment from it. And they know that they can make money because there's other people that do find entertainment from it. And that's why we say there ain't a nation that has not gotten a part of the people of God, which is why you see Ice Cube say some of the things he say in his interview, right? But let's go back to it. There was a certain part I think it was this part right here. You start right here. I think this was the part, one of the parts that I wanted to play too.
Yeah, I just want to say that I really like the way Cube has changed to kick out, a positive message to the young black. And another thing I want to say is that my man, let my man Cube say what he got to say. Stop cutting him off. When he says something, you keep running wild with it. Let him speak. Let him say what he want to say. Cube, more power to you, man. Cleveland loves you. Peace.
Thank you.
Okay. Listen, I can't help it. I just run wild with it too, Cube. I'm sorry. We have Sharon from Mississippi.
Oh, right. Oh, I want to know what was up with, like you said, you cut Cube off every time he got ready to speak. And, it's like every time he got ready to say something, you'll cut him. You'll cut him short. No. I want to know what was up with that. It seemed like you're putting the brother down.
I guess.
So.
Look at his face.
Yeah, like some people came to his defense, man, because I don't want to play the whole video, but if you watch the video a lot, if you watch that video, and I left the title in there on purpose, right? So that way people could go Google it and watch it. It's actually a good interview because he has another one. I think I'm going to play part of that one too. He has another one. I'll play part of that one. But pretty much, man, Ice Cube is, man, he's a smart dude. It ain't really too much that you're going to say that's going to kind of like confound him because he understands his delivery may be a little delayed, but I think it's just because he's trying to say it in ways that are receivable over the airlines as opposed to the way he would say it in the studio. But nonetheless, the reason that the brother said he supports Ice Cube for giving a positive message to the black community, the young black man, was because there was a segment in a part of this video where Ice Cube goes on to say how his message is actually positive as opposed to negative, right? And if you listen to Ice Cube songs, being in the truth, you got to kind of listen to it and not want to judge and rebuke. Listen to what he's saying, and then you'll understand why he may say that. I don't necessarily agree, but I can understand where he's coming from, where he say he believes it's positive. And the reason he believes it's positive is because not only is a lot of what he says true, but it also is a testament to that if what I went through is true, you can get out the situation the same way that I did, right? Now I want to look at this. Let me go back to the Bible, man. Let me go back to the Bible. Let me see. Going back to Deuteronomy 28, right? Let me see. Let's start right here. So let's start Deuteronomy 28. Let's start at 58 and let's read through 60. I want to say, do I want to read this? Yeah, let's read through 63. Deuteronomy chapter 28, 58. Let's read through 60. Matter of fact, Salaki, let's read through 61, 58 through 61.
Con. Deuteronomy 28, 58. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear the glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy sick seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou was afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. Also every sickness and every plague, which is not written in this book of the law, of this law, then will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed.
Right. So you got to read and understand that the Lord said he would do this thing. And this thing was, if we didn't honor him, He would destroy us. And that's what he did, right? And a lot of in Ice Cube's music, it talks about exactly what the Lord did. But also, you got to keep in mind that after those things would happen, right? Let's read this in Deuteronomy 30. Azrael, let's start here. Deuteronomy 30. Let's read verse number 1. And then we go, where's the verse at? Oh, it's right there in 3. Let's read 1 through 3. Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 3.
Deuteronomy chapter 30, starting at verse number 1. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among the nations whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee. And thou shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart, with all thy soul. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God has scattered thee.
Right, man. The Lord didn't say, once out of captivity, turn your heart to me, and then I'll put you back in your land. He said, in the midst of your captivity, turn your heart towards me. And if, as a nation, for the majority, if you do this, then I'm going to turn this captivity. And that's kind of like the similarity between what you see in rap music with Ice Cube and how it relates to the Bible. Because, again, we're talking about how in captivity, if you do good, the Lord will bring you out of captivity, but only if you do good, right? It's not going to be like that for you if you don't live according to how the Most High God told us to live. Because remember, Romans 13, I've been quoting it a lot over the last month. The powers that be are not a terror unto good works, right? So being in an oppressive society, right? Like Ice Cube and them grew up in Compton, Inglewood, California back in the 80s, 90s, man, it was a crazy environment, a crazy community to live in, the urban, the Negro Black communities, right? Especially if you stayed in, you know what I'm saying, in Crenshaw area, Slauson, 83rd Street, 101st Street. If you stayed in all those areas, man, it was a dangerous time to be a young Black male, right? But if you were somebody who did the right thing in the midst of that environment, you were able to come out of that environment, and the Lord was able to put you in a better place, right? On a physical level. So think about how much more on a spiritual level, but worldwide, globally, all your people that are living in this oppressive society, in this oppressive state, how you're able to take your environment and turn it into something positive, right? And now the Lord put you on high above all nations where you were supposed to be to begin with. That's the positivity that Ice Cube was kind of speaking of with his music. Now, the reason I say I disagree with it is because it's not necessarily positive in the way that we know it should be, right? We know that, like we read on this past Sabbath, the wisdom of this world is foolishness with the Most High God. So realistically, even though the world says it's cool, it's fine, we know that in a Most High, in a godly, sorrowful sense, we know that it's still foolishness, right? So we got to exhort people that the sentiment is the same, but it has to be done a certain way, right? It's just like somebody today's time going to sacrifice a goat for their sins. The sentiment is sorrowful, but even in the law, you had to make sacrifices. When you made sacrifices, they had to be done a certain way. So it would be a sin to offer God a fleshly sacrifice right now, because technically, according to the law, they had to be done a certain way in order for you to receive your blessing. Just like living in captivity, you have to keep these commandments a certain way in order for you to receive your blessing. Just like even in a worldly sense, when you're living in those communities, right, you have to live a certain way in order for you to receive your blessing. There's no new thing under the sun. There's no new thing under the sun. I want to pause this and I want to jump to here. This is another interview that
Sidebar too, that's also the meaning of what it means to make to make the Messiah's sacrifice void, right? Paraphrasing. It's not the fact that you're keeping the commandments. It's the fact that you want to keep sacrificing animals, right? If you was to keep sacrificing animals, that's what they're saying is like disrespectful to Christ's sacrifice, not you keeping the commandments. But that's just a sidebar. I know a lot of people, you know, kind of get caught up in that when we speak to them and they're not aware of the full knowledge of the truth, man. So that's a sidebar. But
Con, man. Because again, the Most High God is very detailed, man. He's a very detailed God. He had everything done a certain way, the way he wanted it. And it's not, a lot of people like to get caught up in the why. Like, why would God, why did God, why would God? Like, stop asking why. Because he said so. You know what I'm saying? I think he's the only parent that we can honestly say that if he says, because I said so, we shouldn't feel no type of way. You know? Even your earthly parents, sometimes they said, because I said so, and you be. But with the Most High God, you really can't do that. It's literally just because he said so. If he said you got to sprinkle the blood round about the altar, if he said you got to get a lamb of the first year without blemish, if he said, but you can only do this in the land, then hey, that's all you can do. You can't sit up here and question the Most High why he had things done a certain way. The same way, like he said, if you want to receive this blessing, you got to do this thing a certain way. There's no other way. Like we read at was that last week or was that over the weekend? I think that was on the Sabbath where we read John 10, pretty much saying there's only one way to get into the gate. And if any man try to come up another way, he's a thief and a robber, right? There's only one way. Only one way we can do things. Just like Doctor Strange in that Marvel Endgame movie, when he looked at Iron Man and he said, he was telling him there was only one way that we was going to win this war. And it cost him a sacrifice. Iron Man had to sacrifice his life, but that was the only way. That was the only way it could be done. So let's play this video. I only want to play one question from this because I had been watching these Ice Cube interviews, man, and they was pretty wise. You know, that's why I called this hidden intelligence, because a lot of people during his time, if you would have never sat down and had a real conversation with him or never seen any of these interviews, you would have thought that he was just another ignorant and uneducated brother. But really, he talked with a lot of good sense in these interviews. But let me scroll up. Let me see where I want to. Let me play from right here.
He definitely. Oh,
go ahead.
I'm gonna say, man, he definitely. If you ever seen that movie Higher Learning, he played a role in that movie of a brother that was intelligent, man. That was, you know, he knew a lot of wisdom. So that role fit him in real life, how he was back then too.
Right. I should have said that earlier. Higher Learning, man, that's a good movie. Plus, my my first wife in my head was in that movie, man. Tyra Banks, man, you know. But let me play this.
Man, say Tyra Banks.
Man, her and Mariah Carey, man, you know. But let me play this.
And in a society that feeds you so many lies, which doesn't help you grow as an individual at all, this is uncut, raw truth, you know. Why do people watch Cops? You know, because they can see
is to the 70%. So you don't care what they think.
It doesn't make a difference. White people have really never helped our situation. So the kids today are really, and white people disrespect their women because the white community is way more
that they use bad language. White kids that are buying
authentic than the ABC or any other networks put together.
Okay, let's start from right here.
Is it authentic about all of Black America or just a segment of Black America? I mean, my concern is that white kids that are buying this stuff, a lot of the music reinforces negative stereotypes, that Blacks are violent, that they disrespect women, that they kill each other, that they use bad language, and that's supposed to be the Black reality. Well, does that concern you?
that's just a result that we don't have a lot of media outlets, because the white community is way more violent than the black community on a bigger level. You talk on black violence, look at Bosnia Herzegovina. It's not a black face nowhere in there except in the UN. But and white people disrespect their women on a bigger level than black people ever could do. It's a white man that says, well, a woman only makes 71 cents when I make $1. That's nothing black got to do with that right there. So the kids today are really not concerned on really white people endorsing who we are. We're not concerned about that in 93. And I think that we really need to refocus as a community and could care less who looks bad upon us, because it doesn't make a difference. White people have really never helped our situation. Matter of fact, they was founders in putting us in this situation. So their endorsement shouldn't matter in 1993.
So he said a lot of what we talked about earlier, how he feels as if, the Caucasian race had a lot to do with our demise. And we literally explained that there were nations that took counsel against Israel to have Israel trodden right under the foot. And we read in First Maccabees 2 that really there wasn't a nation on the face of this earth that didn't have a hand in destroying God's people, right? But let's read this, man. I got 2 precepts. Let's read this in Lamentations chapter 4. Let's start at verse number 14. Lamentations 4. We're gonna read 14. We're gonna read 14 through 20. Right? Lamentations 4. It's on you, I think. Lamentations 4, 14 through 20.
It said they have wandered as blind men in the streets. They have polluted themselves with blood so that men could not touch their garments. They cried unto them, depart ye, it is unclean. Depart, depart, touch not. When they fled away and wondered, they said among the heathen, they shall no more sojourn there. The anger of the Lord hath divided them. He will no more regard them. They respected not the persons of the priests. They favored not the elders. As for us, our eyes as yet fail for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near, our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. They pursued us upon the mountain. They lay wait for us in the wilderness. The breath of our nostrils, the anointing of the Lord was taken in their pits, of whom we said, under his shadow we shall live among the heathen.
Right. So all of these things have come to pass, which are true. We've been hunted, right? Our people are robbed and spoiled, right? You can go read Isaiah 42 and 22, right? All of these things yet. They are for a prey, none delivered, right? It's talking about the children of Israel. But verse 17 is always going to be the point anytime we read the context of this, because it says, as for us, our eyes have yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that cannot save us. A lot of Negroes in America did look to these so-called Caucasian leaders to save us out of some of the situations we were in, but it never happened. You want to know why? Because like we talked about earlier, these nations profit more from our destruction than they do from our healing, right? Than they do for our nurturing. If we were healed and nurtured, now who's going to play the role of black on black crime? Nobody, right? It's the most interesting crime there is. Why do I say that? Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. This is Deuteronomy 30. Let me go back to Deuteronomy 28 and let's read this, Brother Nanal, Deuteronomy 28, and let's read verse number 37.
Deuteronomy 28 and verse 37, it says, and thou shalt be in astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all the nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So it was prophesied that we were going to become an astonishment, proverb, byword, right? We were going to be looked at as a whoa. Some people are going to look at it and be like, damn, that's unfortunate. Some people are going to look at it like, I want some more. I'll pay to see this. This is why you used to have slaves fight. They used to have slaves fight each other. Do you want the biggest, baddest, toughest slave, and you wanted them to fight other slaves? Slave owners were impressed by that. Not only were they entertained by it, but it made them money. It made them wealth. So at the end of the day, this is not foreign talk that Ice Cube's talking. A lot of people, it's foreign to them because they really don't understand like the spiritual side of things, the spiritual side of this world. And Ice Cube in his interviews, he was speaking to a lot of it, right? I got another precept, Malachi 1. Malachi 1. Let me read this. Let's read this in Malachi chapter 1. Let's read 1 through 4.
Malachi chapter 1, starting at verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob. And I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever.
Right. The children of Esau are the children or the people against whom the Lord had indignation against forever. They're the border of wickedness. So, of course, what Ice Cube is saying, these people have had, the hand that, I guess you could say, that played into our situation. I'm going to always say, there's going to be Israelites that watch this and say, oh, you hear y'all go blaming the so-called white man, blaming everybody but yourself, blaming these other nations. No. If you were watching the video, you would have seen that the very first thing we read was the contractual agreement that we broke to put us in this position, right? So we started off the video by blaming ourselves. We the ones that broke the contract. This is what the Lord had in the contract. He said, if you don't follow the contract, this is what's going to happen. We started off reading it. So when we start and read that first, it sets the stage that none of this would have happened if we would have honored our end of the bargain. But we didn't. Right? And so because we didn't, now we're subject to all these curses. And one of these curses would be these nations would be treating us like a whore. Just think about you having a wife, man, and every time you went out in public and she seen somebody she liked, she lifted up her dress to and said, touch me in my inward parts. How mad as a man would that make you? How mad as a man would you be you found out your woman was letting every man see her and touch her in her inward parts? That's how the Lord felt about us. We was married. We was a wife unto him. We married him. We entered into a covenant and agreement with him. We would only know him. But then we started looking at these other nations, God's like, Sam, you know what I'm saying? And from there, guess what? Lifting up the dress every time, getting exposed, right? There was one more precept I was going to read, man. Oh, here we go. It came back to me. All praise to the Most High. Further affliction. I'm trying to see what that is. I don't think it reads like that. Let me see further the affliction. Let me type in further. I can't remember that precept off the top of my head. I know it's saying something of the sort. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. Further the affliction. It was a precept that I was thinking about.
Dang, I knew it.
I thought that was
Zechariah.
Oh,
Yeah, Zechariah. Yeah, I couldn't remember off the top of my head. Zechariah 1. I don't know why I always forget that one. That's so easy. Shame on me. But let's pull this up, man. Let's read Zechariah chapter 1, starting at verse number 1, and let's read Zechariah chapter 1, starting at verse number 12 through 15. Right? Let's read this. So you, Saucy O.
Come on, my bad. Verse 12. It's it say when the it's madness. It said when the angel of the Lord answered and said, O Lord of hosts, how long would thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, against which thou hast had indignation these 70 years? And the Lord answered the angel that talked with me with good words and comfortable words. So the angel that communed with me said unto me, cry thou, saying, thus says the Lord of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease. For I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction.
Right, man. The Lord was a little displeased with us, but they said, oh, y'all want to break y'all covenant? Oh, bet we finna make y'all, boy, bad. Boy, they had a field day with us, boy. I'm telling you, bro, it's literally like 5 men that ain't had sex in 20 years, and they see a young damsel walking by, and the damsel's like, take my body, have at it. And they like, what, for real? This ain't no gimmick? Bad. And hey, I don't even say Salakia for the vulgarity of that scenario, because that's literally how it was with the children of Israel. It gets graphic, man. It gets very graphic with the Lord, man. You know, if you don't think it gets graphic, just go read the book of Judges, chapter 19 and 20. I promise you, you'll change your mind. Go read Judges 19 and 20. You'll change your mind for sure. It gets graphic when it comes to the word of the Lord, man. So don't be so, I guess you could say, over righteous about my example, because that's literally, bro, what happened. We literally gave ourselves to these other nations. And they was, instead of them saying, y'all know who y'all God is, right? Y'all know he don't be playing like that, you know. They went ahead and said, okay, bet. And they led us all types of astray. So that's what happens when we forget the covenant of our Lord, man. And I say hidden intelligence because not only am I referring to the brother Ice Cube, right? And I'm sure he wasn't the only brother at the time that was an artist, a mainstream artist with that kind of knowledge, because we see the videos of Tupac, and we see other videos with Nas, and we see other videos with DMX, and there's a lot of other brothers that were privy to a lot more knowledge about this industry and so-called Negroes in America and how these other nations treat us that don't get the recognition that they get for it. So, but what I am saying is that I don't call it hidden intelligence for that reason. I also call it that because we're people who were intelligent, but we were hidden. We were robbed and spoiled. We forgot our law and our God, and that was prophesied to be a curse upon us. But like we read in Deuteronomy 30, and like Ice Cube said, his music serves as an example for, as a positive message for, we can get everything that we gave up back. You know, there's a difference when, you donate a kidney, you really ain't gonna get that kidney back. But one thing about the Lord is we gave up our bodies to these other nations. The Lord said he'll give us new bodies, immortal bodies. You know what I'm saying? And he'll give us a kingdom that will be inhabited, that we can reign again supreme like we were supposed to. But again, it requires us to do the thing that the Most High God called us to do in very detail. And you don't got to wait until you're out of that situation to do it. If you feel like you got to wait until you're out of captivity to serve God, you're never going to serve him. Because when you really should rely on him is in the midst of the storm, when you don't know where your next meal coming from, when you don't know where your help is coming from. You got to look to the hills. Jeremiah already recorded in Lamentations that we waited for a nation that couldn't save us. So if you're somebody that's trusting in the system, if you're somebody that's trusting in anything other than the Most High to get you out the jam, you're going to stay in that traffic jam, brother. Atlanta traffic, you know what I'm saying, 4 o'clock in the afternoon type of traffic. 8 o'clock in the morning, Atlanta traffic type of traffic. You know what I'm saying? Standstill traffic. You're going to stay in that jam until you begin to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding, right? But I don't got anything else to add, man. I just want to share those little interviews, share a little bit of answers, go into the Bible a little bit, talk about the hidden intelligence, man, you know, amongst our brothers and how as a nation our intelligence is hidden. But if we do what we need to do, we'll get it back. Brother, got anything to add?
Yeah, man, you know, It's hidden because of the scripture, man. It says they've hidden us, right? The hidden ones, we're hidden. Well, they haven't hidden us. The Most High hid us, you know what I'm saying, because of the curses. But what was going on back then, the hidden intelligence the brother's speaking about is going on today, right? They're going to make people like Candace Owens seem crazy. They're going to make people like Kanye seem crazy. They're going to make all these people seem crazy that are speaking the truth and that are being intellectual and have some sort of intelligence, right? And they're going to make them seem crazy and on drugs and, oh, they've lost it for the sake of us chopping it up to, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, right? But you got to understand, just like back then, Lauryn Hill, Whitney Houston, amongst all the brothers that Isaiah named, were all perceived to be people that were crazy or, you know, just thugs, right? And that's what the media wanted to portray. And I want to remind you guys who owns the media, right? Who owns the media back then and to today, right? And that's why it's hidden intelligence. So you got to be smart enough to read between the lines and know that these people that are in entertainment, there's some out there that are whistleblowers, and you got to be able to, you know, kind of look past the sport they play, the music that they give out. You got to kind of be able to, like the brother Obadiah, he loved that Lil Tony brother. You got to be able to, you know, look past some of the things that they're doing, because some of them are, you know, they're in that position and they're just, you know, using that position to stay relevant so that they can continue to blow the thing, right? So kind of mighty lesson.
Con, man, you know, the brother Q, man, he kind of said in the beginning that his raps is like the Bible, man. You know, he said, you know, when you get my raps, you get a little bit of both. You get a little bit of fiction and a little bit of science fiction. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's the story of the New Testament, was him speaking in parables, right? And being able to divide the word rightfully and truthfully. You know, in the Bible, you have things that are taken literally and you got things that are taken allegorically, right? It's up to the consumer or the person that is receiving those words to decipher which one. And what I liked about the interview is the fact that he never said that it should be taken literally or figuratively, but he left it up to everybody else to kind of figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And he said that because both of his raps contain both. It's up to you to figure out what should be literal and what should be art in a way. I think that was a cool point, but it's a mighty lesson, Con.
Oh man. Con, well, hey, the brothers have said enough. So with that, you know, hey, hidden intelligence, man. Go listen to an Ice Cube song tonight. And after you listen to it, and go into the Bible, see how it lines up. You know, when you listen to these rappers sometimes, man, if you somebody that like rap music, instead of listening to it for your entertainment, listen to it and then go into the scripture, see how it relates. You know what I'm saying? And then learn how to use that in your message when you talk to the younger community. You know, that's what I do sometimes. I take these new age rap songs. I may listen to one, you know. I don't really listen to a lot of new age rap. Well, I put it like this. I do to an extent. So I take some of those songs though, and I try to use it when I talk to like young people, because I work on a university. I try to talk to the young people, man, and I use some of this new age rap to kind of like relate to them in a sense of like bait. You know what I'm saying? The Bible tells us to be fishers of men. So I use different bait tactics. And one of the bait tactics I like to use is just use a lot of the music they like to listen to and show them how it relates to the Bible. You know, and it works. Some occasions you can talk to people, some, you know, they one ear out the other, but nonetheless, listen to one of Ice Cube songs, man, see how it relates and see how you can turn it around and talk to one of your elders, one of your aunties who was heavy on Ice Cube or who was heavy on rap music in the 90s, you know. Try to spark a conversation that way. I challenge y'all to do that this week, right? But we'll be back on with the brother Denal, you know, tomorrow for Tuesday night class. So we're signing off today. We'll say shalom. Oh, one more thing, bro. If you're not gathering, you're scattering.